If you're about to embark on a new chapter as a father, take a deep breath and consider this advice for fathers, especially new dads. Your baby will grow so fast and you'll miss important moments if you aren't present, so make it your priority. 1. Be a part of their bed and bath time routine. Especially with newborns, a father needs to create bonding opportunities with his children. Bedtime and bath time are moments when you can begin to create traditions that will help develop a unique bond with your beautiful creations. 2. Record everything. You will thank yourself when your kids get older. Videos and pictures are great reminders. 3. Be interested in the things that they're interested in. Having children allows you to rediscover simple things. It will inspire you to be mesmerized by small joys you've grown to ignore. 4. Find your own confidence in fatherhood. I want to encourage fathers to lean into their parental instincts. Fathers have parental instincts that they need to embrace because it will benefit your relationship with your children.
Hello and welcome to a Father's Day Out with me, Anthony Jamepe. Today I have brought you to the home of a fine celebrated blogger. The first, maybe one of the first, but undeniably the pioneer of blogging business in Ghana. Before we introduce our guest, he is father to Nathan and father to a lot more people who want to be like him. Let's take a look at his profile.
Ameyaw Debrah is a Ghanaian celebrity blogger, freelance journalist, and reporter who founded AmeyawDebrah.com and Ameyaw TV. Debrah attended Adisado College and became an editor for the school's magazine in 1999 and graduated with a bachelor's degree in publishing from KNUST. Debrah completed his national service at Ovation International magazine and later became a columnist for Star newspaper in 2007. After service, he devoted his time contributing to some Pan-African websites as Jamati.com, Origin.com, and ModernGhana.com. Towards the end of 2007, he joined Voices of Africa, based in the Netherlands, where he submitted videos, photos, and news from Ghana for AfricanNews.com. In 2008, he also became the entertainment editor for GhanaWeb.com. Debrah also assumed management of multiple award-winning rapper Papi Kojo in 2014. Our guest is married to Elsie, and the couple have a son named Nathan.
Welcome, Ameyaw, Father's Day Out. Today we are here to talk about fatherhood. We would like to know more about your dad, yourself, and how you are conveying fatherhood to Nathan and a lot more people who look up to you. So can you tell us a bit about your father? Who was your father? Or who is your father?
Well, he was, because he's passed, unfortunately. So my dad was Kwame Debrah, okay. That is his name. And he gave birth to 4 children with my mom. And there are 3 boys, 1 girl. I'm the second in it. My dad was a business person, and I think we are from Kwa, and so people in Ghana, we say Kwa people are industrious, they are entrepreneurial and all of that. And I think I saw that in my dad. Growing up, it all started with he had a leather business where in Debrah, that's where he started, where they work on shoes, sandals, and they fix for people as well as manufacturing it. And then from there, he added a travel and tour business to it, and then also grew to add construction to it. And before he died, he was looking into pharmaceuticals as well. But fortunately, that couldn't happen before he passed. So he was largely a business person. He was the kind that would work every day of the week, and on Saturday, he's out going. I think we are only lucky to have him on Sundays, because Sundays he's usually at home. Even Sundays, sometimes after church, being with the family, he wants to go out and do something.
Workaholic.
So yeah, he was a bit of a workaholic. And when it came down to how he interacted with the family, with the children, he was the one that made sure we had everything. And for us as children growing up, we never saw any challenge. Even if he was having a challenge, we wouldn't see it. But later on, of course, when you grow up, your mother would tell you, oh, it wasn't all rosy, but there was never a time that I would ask for something that I didn't get. And so I think it encourages me to also be that kind of person. And in character-wise, I'm more reserved, I'm more quiet, and I'm quite entrepreneurial, but in my own easy way. Since I started, I've been in one space, and I have expanded in that space, but still in media. But I have sort of branched into different things, still under the media space. So I'm somebody that unlike my dad who went into different sort of industries, I am not. And I think I've picked quite a lot from him already.
So was your dad, was he a strict person? What kind of relationship did you have with him?
My dad wasn't the super strict person. In fact, my mother would say he spoiled everybody. And he was easy to talk to. And sometimes he would even prefer me cooking for him, especially on the weekends. Especially when maybe he's had an issue with my mom and they are fighting. So, you're going to do this for me. And so I was always a guy, the one that, and I also like to, growing up, I was quite artistic. So sometimes I would decorate the house in a way, and he would like it. So sometimes, if he needs his room fixed, you say, Ameyaw, go, and then I'll probably go and turn things around, make it look different again. So we had that kind of relationship personally. And I think out of all of us, the one that perhaps we saw that he treated more special was our sister, because, of course, she was the only girl,
The only girl.
amongst 4 people. And he named her after his mother. And so I think there was that more special sort of feel, but he treated all of us equally and made sure we had the best. And he's a kind, there were some times growing up, one car would take me to school, another one will bring me lunch, different one will bring me home. And then at some point, I am going on the street to look for trotro to come home. So he gave us that sort of discipline where he was like, do everything. It's not always going to be rosy. You have to experience life on all levels. Yeah.
So, you mentioned you were the artistic one. Mm-hmm. Growing up with the family, were you the quiet one? Were you the reader, the player, the odd one? Who were you?
I think most people growing up, they go through a lot of phases, and I think I went through mine. Growing up, at some point, they thought I was going to be a doctor, because I'll kill frogs, dissect them, and do all of that. I thought I would be an engineer at some point. My grandparents, I would go and destroy their couch, trying to go inside to find what it's made of. And at some time, I just showed the artistic part of me. But I think largely they felt I was going to be a doctor, and that's what I even went to school to study. I studied general science, but just after school, in fact, during Adisada, that's when I got introduced to the Writers and Debaters Club, and I got in touch with the art side of me a lot more, even though I was still doing essay. In fact, I was winning prizes for the art subject, so it was interesting. And when I finished, I got the opportunity to go to the university immediately after school, and I was like, well, let me try it, because before you had to wait a year at home, and I was like, let me try just in case. So I go to Care University, I pick up the form, and then publishing just reaches out to me. I'm like, well, I'm not supposed to go to school this year, so even if I don't get accepted, I have nothing to lose. Let me apply for this course, and then surprisingly, they accepted, and I went into to do what has led to what I'm doing now.
Great, great. Can you tell us a little about your siblings?
Siblings.
Yeah, how many siblings do you have? Just a little about them.
Yeah, so we are four. I have an older brother.
Okay.
I'm the second one, and then the girl comes after me, and then there's a last one. So for a very long time, it was me and my brother, because when we were born, at some point, my mother went to the UK and later came back. So there's the difference of 2 years between the first two, and then me and the next, there was a 7-year
okay.
7-year break before the girl comes, and then 2 years later the boy also comes. So there are 3 boys, 1 girl, and I think we are all very not so alike. We have different characters, and I think the girl rather was the loudest. Like, because it would be any day, it was her. She would fight us. She would. She did all the really boisterous stuff. The rest of us are pretty much very, very reserved. Our dad was also quite reserved. My mom was also reserved. But there are people that, when they need to speak, when they need to whip the rod or whatever, they will do it. And so that's how the family was.
A very interesting conversation with Ameyaw regarding family, fatherhood. We'll go for a short commercial break, and we'll be back.
On Lifestyle Arena today, our focus is on stylish ways to wear your white sneakers. The white sneaker has earned a spot in every stylish man's wardrobe. Let me show you how to wear white sneaker with suit. 1. White sneakers with suits are for the daring gentlemen among us. Not everyone can pull off the looks, but those that can do so with sophistication. In order for this to work though, there are 3 things to keep in mind. 1. The suit has to fit flawlessly. 2. Stick with the neutrals like navy, grey or beige. 3. Simply keep it casual. That's a suit type or the fabric or even the shirt style.
We've been having a very interesting conversation with Ameyaw, Ghana's finest pioneer when it comes to the blogging business. We've been looking at fatherhood in general, some of his experiences growing up as a child and his relationship with his father. Ameyaw, who are you? Who are you?
That's usually a difficult question. And well, now that I'm a blogger, I try to describe myself based on what I do. So I say I'm an entertainment and lifestyle blogger, and basically I get to share my experiences in terms of what I do on a regular basis, whether it's around travel, events, interviews I do with people, and general things with a bigger audience, which I try to keep very global. So in a nutshell, that's who I am. I'm married. I have a son, Nathan, like you said in the introduction, and yes, Nathan ideally lives in the U.S. My wife is also U.S. based, and so a lot of the time is sort of shuttling between Ghana and the U.S. and then also wherever work takes me out of the country as well.
Can you share with us the most memorable point in your career as a blogger?
I mean, in terms of highlights, they come in different ways. Sometimes it's doing something and the response you get. Sometimes it's even interviewing somebody and the person was so brilliant that you're like, wow, this person said so much. So it comes on different levels. But one of my highlights still would be when I interviewed Amber Rose when she came to Ghana. And the interview I did, found its way on every major
viral, eh?
every major platform that covers urban stuff, from BET to Nicole Beachy, Perez Hilton, all of them took this, and it just made me feel happy that from my little ghetto in Ghana, the work I'm doing has connected with a bigger audience, and everybody is tapping and sharing it. So that's one of my highlights. So Nathan is an interesting chap, and even how he came into the world was quite interesting. So in 2017, that was when we received him, and I traveled to the US primarily because he was going to be born around that time. And the original date that we were expecting, as science and nature would have it, it didn't happen. So I decided to, around that time too, the Miss Universe pageant was happening in Las Vegas. So I decided to just go one night to Las Vegas and come back the following morning. And that was when Nathan decided to come. So he was in New Jersey, I was in Las Vegas. There's a 3 to 4 hour time difference. And so after the pageant, because I have a flight in the morning, I put my phone on silent and sleep and set an alarm that wake me up early and I'll go. And then when I'm going to get ready, I watch the phone. I have so many missed calls from my mother-in-law. I'm like, what's going on? And looking at the time difference, then they were a little bit ahead. So I called, and he was like, boy, they're in the hospital. And I'm like, oh, goodness, I'm missing this. So traveling from Las Vegas back to, it was on my mind, what's happening. So unfortunately that day I wasn't doing a direct flight. So when I went to North Carolina, I called again from the airport, and at that time, my wife had delivered, and my mother-in-law was like, oh, she's delivered, it's a boy, so now I'm happy.
How was the feeling? How was the feeling?
It was exciting. It was exciting. I was very excited. Now I started sending information back home. Oh, Dakon has given birth. And finally I go to Jersey, and it was quite late. I arrived late, so my mother-in-law was like, oh, why don't you wait and then tomorrow you go. And then she herself realized that no, I wanted to go. So that was when she tells me, oh, it couldn't be a C-section. It couldn't give birth naturally, so he had to do the C-section. So up to that point, I thought everything was okay. And then we go to the hospital, and then I go to my wife's room, and then she's crying. Why? Because the doctor because she was in pain, she couldn't go herself. The doctor had come to tell her the boy was in critical condition, and so she was in tears. So now I had to go to the neonatal intensive care unit, NICU, to go and see for myself. And when I went, it was so sad because all the joy that I was experiencing now was cut short because the boy is now struggling to survive. What happened was, during the delay in giving birth, out of frustration, he pooped, and then the poop entered the nose, so it had gone into the respiratory system, and so it was causing discomfort, and the body was not just normal. So the initial stage was for them to try and they put him on some sort of oscillator, shake him so that the particles in the lungs and all of that, they can now use, I mean, there were tubes connected to all parts of his body. And we moved from not knowing what to do till, and it got quite scary when after a day or so at the regional hospital, they said they were going to move him to a specialist hospital. I mean, when they speak to me, the doctors speak to me, I sort of understood. And that's the thing about America. They make you, it's not new. Already they have printed out the condition that the boy is going through, the possible outcome, the treatment that we have to look. So at every stage, they are letting you know, we may have to consider this, we may have to consider that. So we moved him to the Beth Israel hospital for children, which is more a specialist hospital for children, and then we took him to the NICU that was dealing with that. And the interesting thing, or the somewhat comfortable thing, was that they always told us that the next stage was to put him on an ECQ or whatever machine. And at the hospital, we had seen somebody who was just going out of that process. So it gave us some sort of comfort. But of course, your wife is always moody and
So
always, yeah, so
you
always have that mixed feeling. You get that hope, and then you go and she's crying. It's like you have to comfort her and give her hope as well. And unfortunately, at a point, because I also had booked flights and had work to do, there was a time I had to come. And just when I was coming, I think, in the NICU, they don't let you touch. They always make sure that you are sanitized, just so that you don't transfer any sort of. But just before I was leaving, the doctor allowed me to put my hand in his hand. And the funny thing is, when I put my hand in his hand, he actually squeezed it. And it was so comfortable that to get that experience before coming. And then when I came to Ghana, about almost 2 weeks later, just before Christmas, they released him that he can go home. And he's been super strong since that. So we sometimes say that all that he went through really made him very strong.
Oh, he knows everything.
At the moment, I'm not sure he has an understanding of it, but he's seen pictures. Okay. But I don't think he would. He's now only 4 years, so it won't sit in yet until he's properly mature to understand it. Yeah.
I love my daddy a lot. I love my dad times 1,000. Every time he comes home from work, I always give him a hug. I even give him a hug when he leaves too. He wakes me up in the morning. He gives me a big hug and kisses. He taught me how to play basketball. He waves his hand in the air and acts like a dog to me. Like, woo, woo. My daddy likes to take care of me.
Funny because he makes sounds and he makes jokes that are really funny. Like, oh, yeah.
He tells me silly jokes. When I touch his nose, he says honk honk.
Looking at the change in the generations that we have now, your father's time, our time, Nathan's time, what differences do you identify very clearly? Do you think, I have always thought it was more difficult because of social media, the kind of control our parents had over us, it's kind of fading, And how do you link the generations when it comes to fatherhood? How do you link the generations?
Well, I think it's a very different generation compared to us growing up. One thing that's surprisingly is obvious, I don't know why, is children grow up faster now. I think we live in a time when there's so much development, there's so much technology. Children go to school earlier, they are learning different things at this stage that allow them to grow quicker. And that is where we find ourselves. And I think it's just natural. I remember Nathan, even at age 9 months, you put a camera in front of him, and the moment he sees the red button on the phone, he will press that, and then it records. So it's like they are being prepared for the future naturally, and that is where we find ourselves. Growing up, it wasn't like that. And even in terms of social development and what we see out there, the culture has changed. I remember in the past, if you wanted to enjoy pizza or something, we had to go to a restaurant or drive all the way to Osu, because that was where you would see the chain of fast food and all of that, but that's not it now. Every nook and cranny, something is happening. And so we will grow in a different culture than what our children will grow in, that different culture from what we grew up with. And once we understand it, then we, with the background of what we enjoyed as growing up in terms of discipline, we find ways to inculcate that, but very mindful and aware of the times we live in terms of discipline, in terms of what is right, in terms of what is excellent, nothing has changed. Aggregate A is aggregate A, whether in the past or now. Excellence in academics is still the same. So you all want to pursue those good things. It may be more difficult to achieve them now because there's a lot of distractions.
I was about to come to that.
Yeah, there's a lot of
difficulty differences.
Yeah, there's a lot of distractions. Social media, as you said, is there. But then again, social media is also letting people learn faster. Yeah. So all of this, there are benefits and there are challenges. So it's preparing the children well enough so that they see more of the benefits than the negative side.
Wow, it has been very interesting. I'm very glad we are throwing light on the impacts of fatherhood in the lives of some of the great people in our community. We are looking at fatherhood, the impact of fatherhood, and how we are looking to convey whatever we learned from our fathers to the next generation. We'll be back after a commercial break. Welcome back to a Father's Day Out with me, Anthony Jamepe. We've been having a very interesting conversation with Ameyaw Debrah. Ameyaw, what has been the most challenging moment for you as a father?
Well, I'll probably go back to what I stated earlier. The childbearing,
the birth period
was quite stressful. Okay. But also, as growing up, finding ways to take care of him when he's not in Ghana, because I'm not in Ghana, I'm not in the US. It's interesting, yeah. Even if you have to send money and all of that, you have to have a way. Conveniently, there's always money maybe in your American account so that you can always transfer. So those are some of the challenges, but it's been more joy than trouble.
You know, we've been talking about the difference in the generations and, you know, raising a child. What advice would you have for the 21st century father in terms of raising a child?
Well, I'd say being able to listen, being able to observe is very important, because when you listen to what the child has to say, you may be able to pick up some of the challenges, what experiences they are going through, and then you may be able to sort of guide it. Also, paying attention helps, because if you are monitoring the behavior of the child, what he's reading, what he's watching, you are able to sort of have a sense of the influences that are coming to bear on him, and then you can now shape it or play more of that influence to divert things from going wrong.
So listening
and paying attention, I think
great.
I think is very key, and be very participatory. Technology is there. Understand technology. Explore the technology with them, so you understand it as much as they do, and you're able to sort of know how to use these things in terms of the good and the bad as well.
And before we wrap up everything, I wouldn't leave here without trying to get Ameyaw into a tight corner. So I have a couple of papers in my hands. He's going to pick one of them, and whatever he finds in there, he would have to do it. Great. So let me give it a quick shuffle. You pick one, whatever you find in there.
This one is bad, that one is bad. Oh, okay, that one.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm going to go for it.
There you go.
I was trying to push it away, but
it came to you.
It found me.
Yep.
Which Ghanaian celebrity can you mimic? Who can I mimic?
Shatta Wale.
Maybe Shatta Wale. I've seen people try to mimic Shatta Wale. I think so. Something like that. Yeah, he will do that. I hope I did well.
That was Ameyaw mimicking Shatta Wale.
My best friend Shatta Wale.
Yeah,
you know Shatta Wale, me and you will go way back.
Wow, it has been a very wonderful session with Ameyaw. Before we leave, there's no way we are going to just come here and leave without giving you a present for Nathan. So we came with a few goodies that we would like to present to Ameyaw for Nathan.
Thank you very
We
much.
hope he enjoys every bit of them. Well, it has been a very interesting conversation with Ameyaw on fatherhood and parenting and how he's able to juggle career and parenting. Make sure you join us next week, same time, as we share another wonderful daddy moment on a Father's Day Out with me, Anthony Jamehwe. See you again next week.